Hello and welcome to another tips and tricks video, this time talking about the Cluster Stuka. I'm your host Neff and I'm your friendly neighborhood team games player trying to help you out. Alright, today of course we're talking about the Cluster Stuka. It's especially used in battle groups that aren't really viable, more of the lacking kind of battle groups. So using it correctly is very important. So talking about the Cluster Stuka itself, it's of course mostly viable in A because of the lack of AA in the enemy of your opponent, and it works in B too, but in C it mostly kinda is already not viable anymore. So if you have that kind of a time span, you want to use it as best as you can. Therefore, I'm gonna give you some tips to make it the most of it and kind of use it in its best way. When you think about the Cluster Stuka, the main weaknesses are of course enemy fighters and AA. And there's enough if there's one A8 piece, it basically already makes it hard for one Cluster Stuka to make it through. So knowing that, you kind of have to play around the enemies and the weakness of the Cluster Stuka and make the enemy less focused on the Cluster Stuka, instead trying to focus on other things. So one way to do it is to try and push as fast and as on all fronts to make it hard for the enemy to just justify buying AA. That's one way. But this is not what we're going to see here in this replay. We have very specific situation, and it's about how you make a cluster Stuka work most effectively. Alright, let's speed up the replay a little bit. We got a hill in the middle. The enemy has a third guard tank core, which is full of Shermans, which all have vet as they go. Of course, enemy has a Maverick income. This is basically an all-in kind of strat, rushing up all your tanks with max vet, so you don't have too many of them. Just rush them up the hill, win the fight. Shermans, of course, are very capable of that. And to make matters worse, I played a Panzeri Divisione, one of the most lacking divisions in team games. Of course, they have their strong points, which are most of the time are the infantry and weak tanks that are very cost efficient. At this time, we're looking specifically at a T26 in this scenario. I'm a big fan of the T28 too, by the way. But this is not about them, it's about the Cluster Stuka, so let's see what happens. Alright, first of all, there will be an infantry engagement. I of course have Yekari, so I thought maybe flooding the hill with them, having the Panzerfaust would be helpful. Of course, at that time I didn't know about this tank push coming up. But I will realize very soon. It will be, of course, a very shocking realization. Alright, now I see it. Of course, not reacting to it right away, because sometimes you just have to do something else somewhere. Now, the thing I did in this moment is just sending infantry up to block a few shots so I can retreat. That didn't really work, so not to think it's weird that I use this infantry like this. I wanted to have the packs shoot a little more. Didn't really work. Alright, so of course the watchful eye already saw this coming. There's no AA here. So this is a situation where the Cluster Stuka is most efficient. Enemy doesn't have AA, it's phase A. He's blobbing like a crazy person. So what does he think will happen? Well, we all know what happens now. There's gonna be kills. This time I didn't even really have it perfectly because he kind of I focused the IS-2 and just one of the Shermans on the right side. He moved the IS-2 back because he expected it to be a target, so I didn't hit any Shermans here. But of course on the other side I hit 2 free Shermans and the other ones are shocked. Of course, I talked about the Cluster Stuka not being just a send in kill plane kind of thing. You want to use it in a really offensive or defensive manner correctly. Because since the Cluster Stuka is very vulnerable to enemy attacks, you want to make it that it is used just in the right time, not to be a target too easily. This time I just use it to kill a few tanks and then right away move up my troops in a situation where the Shermans are most vulnerable. What we're seeing now is T26s and one T34 prior to patch. This is a long time away from the patch coming, which is in the meta right now. Alright, we will see 4 Shermans getting killed by T26s and 1 T34-85. And of course the Panzerfaust maybe. Yeah, there you go. Alright, I won this battle. It's all to the Cluster Stuka. Use it in combined arms fashion. Alright, this is just, of course, a mistake the enemy did. He soon realized this, set up AA. And he's still going very strong with his income. So, next up, he will reinforce his front, he will attack again like that, just with AA. I still have the same problem. My division is not set up to fight medium tanks this efficiently. Especially not if it has an IS-2. The range is of course perfect for me, but it's not worse for him, so we'll ignore that in this situation. Alright, moving up to capture zones, very important. Never let a zone fly. Always capture them as you can. So the enemy couldn't really scout. He didn't know how many packs there were. He didn't move in because he wasn't sure. That might be on him. He would have captured that zone if he wanted to. But of course, since he lost the last tank battle, he might just thought, well, he probably has AT. As me, I have AT, whatever, in all these woods and whatever. So he didn't really try and attack till he knows better. So of course, I will always try to scout ahead. I'll send all infantry, check what is going on here. Move up to 226 a little bit to maybe attack a few infantrymen trying to move ahead, but of course if you see Shermans you won't move up your T26s. I already expected another attack to happen in the next few minutes, so what do? Of course setting up some infantry is always helpful, but we're gonna look at my next move when it happens in the next few minutes. So let's get a little faster, there you go. I know the situation is pretty dire if those Shermans make it up on the hill without being countered, which I can't really do, except with those Pack 40s. So what I have to do is use my Cluster Stuka again, which is hard when the enemy has AA set up. In this case, the best AA you can get against Stukas. So I have to make it that my next move, my next attack in this case, or defense, is on my terms. So I get my smoke mortars up to the front and prepare for another move. We'll see what happens now. Unload them as close to the front as you can possibly do, and now you have a way to make a move. So next thing you want to do is know where the enemy AA is. Of course, in this situation, just send on some bait infantry. Now a trick is to mark the enemy AA with the pings. That's in this case F1 for me. Maybe you have a different key for it, but it's usually F1. So you see right away smoke. Deploy smoke right on them, and it should basically one should be enough if it's not too far. Alright, in this case the enemy, I actually wanted to attack him, but he was a little faster than me and attacked right away. The timing is of course not bad, since I'm already on the way. The smoke is now coming in, and we'll see what happens now. So enemy fighter, I think he asked the worst fighter to attack a Stuka right add-on, so it didn't work. You see they're all fine. Alright. Okay, we kind of missed it a little bit. This one already had to move out a little for the smoke. They are not in position right now. They have to move because they don't have a line of fire. So you see a move, and this is basically the time window you got. Usually if you deploy the smoke and have a little bit of luck, they are completely enveloped in smoke. They take their time to move out. But it's enough if they have to move a little bit. It's for all AA pieces. So Stukas coming in. Hope you have the right targets. Try and spread it out because Cluster Stukas do have that capability to spread a lot. And there you go, another effective run. And of course, perfectly timed, very important. So again, another attack was repulsed, and I'm again in the offensive. All right, yeah, now they leave because it's all in, didn't work. So the most important thing you have to get out of this video is try to enable your Cluster Stuka. Now don't waste it to kill one Sherman somewhere because it's slow enough to be killed by any fighter. You want to think about it. If you know the enemy has fighters, try and think about how to get it to the front. If the enemy has AA, try to disable the AA and don't use them just to send them in. You want to be focused on an attack or a defensive strategy while using them. Alright, I hope you learned something. If you have questions, just put them in the comments. And I hope you learned how to use Cluster Stukas with this video. And maybe give a try to a Shiger or Panzadi next time. Alright, see you in multiplayer. Bye bye.